all about writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 9, part 2 of our series on writing life. I am Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher.
And I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who's an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter. And today, as we talk about writing life, we're going to deal with one of the great obstacles that so many authors hit: writer's block. It hits all of us when you just can't write. You've got the time, you're sitting down, you're ready, and nothing's happening. And so how do you deal with writer's block? That's what we're going to talk about today. So there's a couple of different ways to approach it, and everyone is different. Let's start with that. Everybody's different, and so there's no sort of silver bullet that's going to get you through writer's block. Everyone, you have to know thyself. But there certainly are a couple of techniques and approaches you can use to try and push through. Because I found, I don't know about you, Sara, I find with writer's block, basically what you have to do is push through. You cannot just sit there passively and wait for it to go away. You have to take active measures to get through writer's block. And that's all the different ways that you can do it. So do you have any initial thoughts?
Okay, and don't hate me for saying this, but I actually don't remember ever having writer's block.
I hate you.
I'm sure it's happened, or perhaps when I have the time and I tell myself or my husband, like, I just don't feel like writing, I'm too distracted by life. Maybe that is a form of writer's block. But at the same time, if I was told, go sit down and write your story right now, I'd be like, fine, I'll go and work on it. And I'd be able to write. It wouldn't be that I would be frozen at a keyboard, not knowing what to do next or where to go with anything. So I've never really experienced that incapacitating, frozen at the keys, unable to put anything on paper. But I think that dovetails into what you're saying, which is even if you think that you're there or you are there, just starting to type and just writing something or doing something creative like that is kind of the key to breaking away from feeling stymied.
Yeah. And that's great that you sort of just naturally know how to push through it. Like you said, there are some days where you don't really feel like it, but okay, fine, I'll just go and do it. And that really is the key. Okay, that was our show. That's it. Just go and get on and do it. But I've been writing for a very long time. And I remember in the early days, I would often just I would wait for the muse, to come. And I would sit down and I've got some writing time. Where's my inspiration coming from? And if it came, great, off I went. But if it didn't, then I had nothing. And I just basically was stuck. And I remember the very first novel I ever wrote, there was one scene I was stuck on, I don't know, probably for months. And I wrote all the chapters in order, because you don't have to, by the way. That's one way to avoid this, is do something else. But I wrote in order, and this one scene, I knew what I had to accomplish in the scene, but I had no idea how to start it. And where am I going with this? And every time I sat down to write, I just had the same problem. I don't know what to do with this scene. Okay, I'm done. And I'd leave. So I understand writer's block. I don't really suffer it much anymore, but that also comes from having been a professional author for a very long time. And, like my answer to writer's block at this point is, well, it's my job. So I have to do it. So I just do it. And that is one way that as an aspiring author, you can get past writer's block, is even if you're not getting paid for it yet, treat it like it's your job. We all have days when we go to our real jobs and we don't really want to be there. Maybe we're tired, maybe we're not inspired by the job, maybe we hate our boss. There's lots of reasons. But if you're at your job that you're getting paid for, you have to at least look busy, right? You have to at least make the effort. You have to stand behind the counter. You have to stock those shelves. You have to type that report, right? You have to at least look busy. And getting past writer's block is kind of the same. Think of this as your job. You are an author. And if anybody walks in and sees you there, you need to look busy. And the best way to do that is to start either typing or writing, or however it is that you capture your story. Just look busy. You know, the whole fake it till you make it thing. And if you think of it that way, this is my job. I have to do something. You can just start typing, and words will start going out onto the page. They may be complete junk. And if you're suffering from writer's block, they probably are complete junk. But you have to just push through and keep going. One thing I find about trying to get going in the day, as a professional, my writing time is usually in the morning. And so I get up, you know, breakfast, make my coffee, sit down, start writing. That's my best writing time. But there are some mornings when I'm just tired, you know, and don't really want to be there. And maybe the scene that I have to write is not one that I'm particularly excited about. But it doesn't stop me. I just start writing. And I guess don't worry if the first few sentences you write are complete crap. Don't worry about it, because you can always go back and fix them. Keep moving forward. That is that's the biggest thing. Maybe even the whole day's worth of writing is going to be crap. It probably won't be, but you might feel like it is at the time. But it doesn't matter. Just keep moving forward. Get something down on the page. That's the first recommendation I would give anyone who has writer's block, is just start writing. That's easy to say, though, because writer's block can just paralyze people. And well, I was going to throw it back to you, Sarah, but you've never had writer's block, so you know you got nothing to add here. So no, I'm kidding.
No, that's fair. But I do think, you know, sometimes on those days, as you're saying, where you don't feel like writing, or you don't want to, you're not feeling super inspired, and you haven't figured out what you're going to write. I do think having a plan for what your book is, having that outline, having those chapters kind of figured out ahead of time do help, because at least you aren't making it up. You're not trying to pull ideas out of thin air. You're like, well, I know I'm supposed to write this scene. I don't want to, but at least I know what I'm supposed to be writing, or what I could be writing, or I have ideas already figured out. I think that helps. But I've also discovered on days when I don't feel particularly excited about sitting down, and it is the job really, you know, is giving myself either a timeline or a deadline, or I'm going to write until 5 p.m. Whatever I get done is what I get done for the day, or I'm going to get 1,000 words done, or 2 chapters done, and just give myself a stopping point. Because I think sometimes walking into writing time, you know, without a plan or without any type of parameters can also almost feel either overwhelming or like you're floating in free fall and you don't even know where to start, what to do, or what you're gonna try and accomplish. So that would, you know.
I think giving yourself an out is a really good way to do it, because sometimes writer's block, you can feel overwhelmed, right? Like for whatever reason, you don't want to write. And if you just tell yourself, I just need to write a little bit and then I can stop, but at least I've done something, it can make it much more manageable, a lot less intimidating. And like 1,000 words, that's a great target, you know? And if you as an aspiring author, if that seems like a lot to you, 500 words, you know, 1 page, just get something down. And the reason I really recommend that is that once you start writing, it generally gets easier. Like it really does. I think most of us have discovered that. Those couple of paragraphs in, which may have been a complete slog, but now creativity's starting to awaken. You're starting to get into the scene. It's getting a little easier, you know? I think we can often think of dealing with writer's block as going to exercise. For any of us who don't like to exercise, you know? Like, I don't want to do that today. I remember I used to go to karate in the evenings, and it was in the evenings. It didn't start till 7:30 and didn't finish at 9. And seriously, yeah, like by the time I've come home, I've had dinner, the last thing I want to do is leave the house again and go exercise. But it was such a good workout and I enjoyed it when I was there. And so often what I would do to get myself out of the house is say, okay, I'm only going for the first half hour. That's sort of the real workout part. I'm just going to go for the first half hour. And that would get me out the door because I'm not committing to a lot. I'm just committing to half an hour. And sometimes at the end of that half hour, I would leave. But at least I had done that half hour. Most of the time, I would stay. And, and it's the same with writing. If you just commit to, okay, I'm going to get 500 words downrange. And if it's really still not working, then I will stop. But at least I've written something today. But probably when you get to 500 words, it's going somewhere now. It's going somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great idea.
I think that, oh, sorry. I just was
No,
going
no,
to
go
say,
ahead.
I think writer's block is a combination usually of either not having a plan about what's going to happen or
Yeah.
what you're supposed to write or how long or how much you're supposed to write, and then truly feeling overwhelmed with, oh, I have to write this whole book or a whole chapter or something. And I think if you can get rid of those two feelings or, vibes when you're sitting down, you'll find you actually don't have writer's block because you've given yourself parameters, a plan, and or you're not pulling ideas out of thin air. I think
Yeah.
those things right there are great things that you can try to accomplish in order to get rid of any potential block.
That's a really good way of looking at it, is that you don't deal with writer's block in the moment. You deal with it before it even happens, like by doing this preparation. Now, not everybody outlines, and I get that, like I outline, I know, Sarah, you outline.
I do
But
now. I never used to.
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But not every author does. It's certainly when a lot of authors are starting out, they're just kind of writing and just kind of going with it. It is a very creative, organic process, and you do really need the muse to be with you. But as you develop as an author, you develop your craft, and you've got more words under your belt, and you sort of know what you're doing. I can say with confidence that to be a good author, you don't need to wait for the muse, because you don't need the muse. You don't need something to inspire you to write. It's like exercise, it's like any muscle. You work at it and you make it stronger and it becomes easier. And writing is the same. So yeah, making a regular schedule can certainly help you avoid writer's block. But okay, this is my time during the day or during the week that I am writing, and I'm going to be ready for it. I'm going to go psyched up. I'm going to be dive in. I'm going to do it. Outlining is great because at least you have an idea of what you're supposed to accomplish. And if for whatever reason you really can't write the scene you're supposed to write today, if you have an outline, you can always write a different scene. I go, you know what? This thing is not working for me and I don't know why. But that scene, like 3 chapters from now, has been in my mind all week. So I'm just going to go and write that. I'm going to go write that scene instead. And if you have an outline, then you can do that because you know what's coming and you know where it fits. So outlining, even at a basic level, is a really great way to avoid writer's block. So yeah, it's like you said, Sarah, it's dealing with these problems before they actually become a problem is a great way to deal with writer's block. And here we have Sarah, proof positive, has never suffered from writer's block.
Well, or that I would ever define it as writer's block, I guess.
Yeah.
And just as a side note, something to consider too, I think people who start writing, they usually have a really great idea, or they understand what they're trying to say, and they get going and they have the book a third of the way done. But that middle, where suddenly you have to get to the end because you've maybe already visualized the end, but how are you going to get there when you get into that nitty-gritty middle section, which I think it should be its own episode on how to get
It will
that
be.
middle sagginess. If that's where, if you can't write, like actually put dialogue on the page or something like that, step back and go, okay, well, I'm probably suffering, writing because I don't know what's going to happen next or how I'm going to get from ABC to DEF to Z. And maybe instead of writing parts of your book, write a mini outline or figure out what's going to happen in the next chapters, and instead spend your writing time figuring out what's blocking you, because it might not even just be a state of mind. It might be truly you don't know what's going to happen next. And I think a lot of people kind of stop writing their books because they don't do the work. And I think that's something writer's block is. It's like it becomes, instead of this creative process, it happens when it suddenly becomes work. As you said, it suddenly becomes almost like a job, and it's the hard part. And if you can push through that, then I think you'll come back again. You'll punish yourself again and write a next book and a next book.
Yeah. And certainly if you are just starting out on the writing journey, just be advised it's probably going to take a long time. Like, writing books is not a quick process. Books themselves are not short. So even if you're writing a relatively small book, like say, 30 or 40,000 words, if you're new to this, it's going to take you time. And so just be ready for that.
Yep.
You will get better at it. The more you practice, the faster you will get, and I know Sarah and I can both talk about, lightning fast books that we have written when all the stars align. Like, we have all the time in the world, we're properly inspired, we have a solid outline, we know what we're doing, I think my record is 2 weeks. I've written a full-length novel in 2 weeks. And yeah, but that's because I've been doing this for a long time and I've worked up to that, I can assure you, if I tried to, swim at the Olympic level, that I would not be able to do that. I probably wouldn't even make it to the other end of the pool, but I'm just starting out. So as an aspiring author, writer's block is just one of those obstacles that you need to get past. And there are different techniques, like we talked about today. Just the first one is just push through it. Just start putting words on the page, even if they're crap. Just start, and because it will probably get easier. Another one is to outline so that you have a good sense of where you're going, and you can always jump around. If this scene isn't working, write another scene. And then third is scheduling. This is your time to write, and so this is your job right now, so you have to do it. So yeah. Yep. I hope that is helpful for everyone. Yeah. Any last thoughts, Sarah?
No, I don't. I think that'll do us, at least for this tiny topic. So that's the show. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of these nuggets of information. And feel free, please, to leave a review, which does help us a ton, and we really appreciate it. And lastly, for me, don't forget you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram.
And you can catch up with Sara at saradahman.com and on Instagram. Thanks for joining us today. Please reach out if there are any topics you'd like us to cover. We're always happy to hear from folks, and we're always happy to look for new inspiration as well. We'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.